Hey everybody, welcome. My name is Matthew. Thanks for joining. Let's get right into it. In my last video, we discussed the transaction value or transactions originated in US dollar terms. We looked at Fedwire, which transfers base money dollars, the monetary base, around the United States and around the world for certain banks. We looked at that, and we also compared that to Bitcoin. Bitcoin's transaction value on a trailing 12-month basis. We're going to do the same here today, except we're going to look at actual numbers, or sometimes here you just call them straight up payments, the actual volume of payments originated. So we see we have Fedwire data here going back to the late 80s. All right, we can see that you see TTM, trailing 12 month. That's what it means. TTM payment volume for Fedwire, about 50 million payments a year. That's what they do, 50 million payments a year for Fedwire. In 2006, and just before the eve of the financial crisis, 2008, that number was 135 million payments a year. We see that it dipped after the global financial crisis, fell down to about 123 million payments a year. And then during COVID, a lot of stimulus payments back and forth from the government, a lot of activity, a lot of money printing during COVID. See, during the peak there, trailing 12 months, actually little over 200 million payments per year initiated on Fedwire. It has since dipped again here after COVID, and as of December 2023, little less than 200 million payments per year initiated on Fedwire. Fedwire is a real-time gross settlement system. It is comparable to Bitcoin. This is why I've been talking about the monetary base for as many years as I have, comparing that to the UTXOs on the Bitcoin network. Now let's compare Bitcoin trailing 12-month payment volume. Perhaps it will surprise you. Just want to take a moment to remind you that this show is brought to you by Trezor, home of the original Bitcoin hardware wallet. Established in 2012, Trezor means business in Bitcoin security and functionality. Whether you're protecting your identity with Tor or using Trezor Suite to smoothly send or receive a Bitcoin transaction, Trezor gives you full control of your coins in a transparent and fully open source manner, both on the hardware and software level. So head on over to Trezor.io to grab your Trezor Safe 3 with the secure element, Model T with a touchscreen, or the original Trezor 1, as well as a ton of available accessories to back up your keys and keep your coins safe. We're proud to be associated with Trezor this year. It's bigger. You can see that it's bigger. Already by 2016, on an annual basis, there were more payments occurring on the Bitcoin network than on Fedwire. Okay. We got up in 2018, the bull run there at the end of 2017, we got up to 250 million payments a year. Then 2021, we got to 300 million payments, and it's only going up. This chart ends as of December 2023, 367 million payments a year for Bitcoin, where Fedwire is only doing 193 million payments a year. Now, a note, these are payments that include batching. It is true that for Bitcoin, we have what are called gross transactions, and those are the actual transactions that miners will validate in each block. And that number has been relatively stable for a long time in Bitcoin. That's about 300,000 transactions per day, or a little over 100 million per year. It is true, Bitcoin has this gross transaction limit at the moment based on the protocol. But inside of these transactions, which is just good practice from miners and exchanges and other big entities on the network, you can batch smaller payments inside one transaction. So that's called batching. And this, of course, as I say here, includes batching. And you're still transferring base money Bitcoin. But if you look at batching, the picture is pretty wild compared to Fedwire. or the Central Bank of the United States, what they can do. Okay, let's finish this up now looking at transactions per second. Fedwire and Bitcoin. It's the same number, but I'm just putting this into a per second value so you can understand. The Fed we can see here does about 6. About 6.5 at times at peak. Back in the 80s, it did only 1 or 2 transactions per second. Now it does 6. Bitcoin, on the other hand, when you include this batching functionality, it does almost 12 transactions per second. So we are almost double what the Federal Reserve can do, which is very, very different than what you typically hear about Bitcoin being slow, inefficient, no value, no utility as far as transacting. It's just not true. If you look at the correct apples to apples comparison, which is base money US dollars, i.e. Fedwire, Bitcoin actually outperforms by a factor of 2. One more caveat. Of course, in these transactions per second figure, I am looking at calendar days because Bitcoin operates every day. The Fed does not. Fed only operates on business days, so you would actually need to, you could on the transactions per second increase that number 20% or so for business day activity. But I'm not doing that here because, frankly, I don't think that you should, because we're talking Bitcoin is a workhorse that works every day of the year. The Fed does not. The Fed has costs with what they do. And yeah, they could work every day of the year, but they don't. So I'm not of the opinion that when you just look at raw transactions per second, I think that you should look at this based on every calendar day. So that is what is happening here. You see transactions per second based on every calendar day. Bitcoin does much more, double, in fact, than what the Federal Reserve can do with its base money, Fedwire. Finally, as always, just a reminder, remember here, this is the comparison. So Bitcoin is not Visa, it's not PayPal, it's not MasterCard, it's not a debit card. Those things, it is true, in particular with Visa and MasterCard, they can get up to 50,000 transactions per second at peak times. Peak times, they don't do that all year round. It's only maybe 3,000, 4,000, if I recall correctly, all year round transactions per second, which is a high number. It's absolutely a high number. I'm not denigrating credit cards, by the way. But as far as what Bitcoin is and what credit cards are, they are not the same thing. This is the apples to apples comparison. And so here you can see that, in fact, again, Bitcoin outperforms what the Federal Reserve can do on a transactions per second basis and on a trailing 12-month basis. Hope this helped you. Thanks for watching.